Doom v Vamus v Vamus Epicureans. This is the Marvel Epic Collection Podcast One-Shot Edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing, Soldier?
Yeah, not too bad. It's one more week of work before Christmas break. So taking off a week before
Oh,
Christmas. So
nice.
looking forward to that. How about you? School end, teaching end early, or
Yeah,
you up
by
right into the new?
trying to think of when we record these episodes in advance. When this one comes out, yeah, I'll have 2 more weeks of school before we'll be getting out. Of course, it's that time of the year the kids are getting excited because a big break's coming up. So it's fun. It's fun to feed off that. Anyway, we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, where we're reading through the Claremont run on the X Men comics. Obviously, for details for that, find the Epic Marvel Podcasts Facebook page or their Discord. We are not associated. We are just we're friends, and we're kind of doing similar things here. All right, so this one shot today is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is... I had to move some stuff around on my screen to get that to move. All right, here we go. Uncanny X Men number 140, Rage. All right. I sounded very happy and excited about that title, right? Rage, shouldn't it be angry rage? No. All right, Rage. In Canada, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and 3 members of Alpha Flight confront the Wendigo, and they have a difficult battle with him. Wolverine lets himself loose in a berserker rage, which we really haven't seen that much of lately. But the true tipping point is when Snowbird of Alpha Flight turns herself into a Wolverine. So not our human Wolverine, but an actual animal Wolverine. And she becomes the living embodiment of a berserker rage. Well, after the Wendigo has been defeated, Shaman uses his magic to turn Wendigo back into a human, and Wolverine manages to talk Snowbird down from this wild state that she was in, and she becomes human once again. Well, Wolverine and Nightcrawler return to the United States, but Vindicator learns that Canada's government will no longer fund Alpha Flight. All right, Stojer, what are your thoughts on this one?
I really like that, they're not belaboring the whole Alpha Flight versus the X-Men stuff. They're sort of setting them up as allies and, getting past some of the issues that they had in the past. I think it's a good Wendigo story. You have this sort of ending with the Canadian laws where it's like, look, you broke the law, you ate human flesh, you caused all these murders, even if it wasn't you doing it. So, you're going to have to stand trial for that. The Alpha Flight powers on display are pretty solid, although a real life Wolverine doesn't look anything like that, if I remember correctly. Wolverines in real life are a lot tinier. They almost look like ferrets, if I remember correctly. But it evokes what they're trying to do with Wolverine and show him as this sort of berserker, rage that will continue into future issues, right? I think like they've talked about that he's got this rage, but he's going to start losing his temper. He's going to start, demonstrating that he will lose control. But I don't know that we've necessarily seen that yet. They've just kind of talked about it. I kind of have this maybe X-Men cartoon vision, or maybe it's in future X-Men comics over the years of just him going into a blind rage where everybody's got to like tackle him and calm him down before he just murders everybody. We haven't seen that yet in these comics. So I like the dynamics and the behind the scenes of Alpha Flight. Again, I never picked up any Alpha Flight comics other than when they crossed over with X-Men. So if I was reading this at the time, I'd be very interested in an Alpha Flight ongoing and at least giving that a chance as we go through this. What are your thoughts?
Um, yeah, to the whole Wolverine Berserker Rage thing, I remember when they were in the Savage Land, he talks about cutting loose on the pterosaurs, but yeah, that's not quite the same thing. And yeah, so I agree. I'm not sure we've really seen him actually go berserk just yet. Although again, I haven't read the Hulk issues where he first fights the Wendigo. Um, and to that point, this comic, this 2-part series, it seems like just kind of a simple beat 'em up. it doesn't seem really stand out to me, but if this is the first time he's gone up against the Wendigo since he was first introduced in Hulk 181, then maybe that makes this more interesting. And him getting a chance to face off against his first foe again, I guess that is also interesting. But again, I lack that context. One of these days, we'll have to figure out a way to read either that Hulk issue or go back and read the X Men Volume 4, because I do need to read that.
Hmm.
Something I noticed that I didn't note in the previous episode that we recorded. Byrne has the sole plotting credit for this issue and for the previous one. Claremont is solely as the writer, so they're not co-plotters for this one. So this is maybe our first instance of Byrne kind of stretching his wings a little bit, of doing his own thing. And I did.
I still struggle with that distinction that they have here and what that actually means, especially when you think about like the Marvel method of writing and things like that, where you'd in general, and I don't know how Byrne and Claremont really worked, but the Marvel method being, hey, I'm gonna dictate to you what I think the outline of the story is and what the beats are and what's gonna happen. You go draw it, and then I go fill in the dialogue afterwards.
Mhm.
If they were strict to that, like you'd almost feel like they should always get plotting credits, because there's a lot that goes into that. So it is an interesting sort of inside baseball distinction, and understanding what those rules are or what it was for different writers is, at least for me, is interesting. So
Yeah, I wonder if it's when the collaboration becomes so close that they are coming up with ideas together, that's when they finally say, okay, let's go ahead and be co-plotters. I think I've used the example of Tom DeFalco and Ron Friends, right? They often share the
mhm.
co-plotting title. So I think that's kind of what it is. Whereas if it's just the writer is coming up with all the ideas and then the artist just kind of draws it out. And now that I'm thinking about it, I was going to say, like Stan did back in the '60s, but Stan relied heavily on Jack Kirby and also Steve Ditko for the Spider-Man books for them to actually come up with the stories, and that was part of the fallout
Yeah.
between Ditko and Stan, right? Is Ditko wanted more credit for what he was actually doing, so yeah, I'm guessing that's just kind of where it is. One last thought on this issue. I did like how Byrne handled Snowbird attacking Wendigo as a Wolverine, even if that's not what a real Wolverine looks like. I don't know. I didn't even think to look up what one looks like. When she attacked the Wendigo, we would expect to see a fight drawn out visually, but instead, we see the shocked faces of the witnesses, and then we see her bloody teeth while she's standing on top of the defeated monster, and that makes the reader's imagination come up with a fight much more brutal than what Byrne likely would have drawn on paper. And so on the one hand, it might seem disappointing because we don't actually get to see the fight. On the other hand, I think the fight that happened in our heads was probably much worse than what might have been there. Now, I think that's just kind of a great little effect that Byrne did there.
Yeah, and I mean they got to dance around the comics code here because the way that it's worded, I mean, she ripped the thing apart, right? The Wolverine version of her ripped the Wendigo apart, and then it was slowly healing to come back to life, basically, because you can't be killed is I think the idea here. So yeah, I mean, if they had shown what they're telling you about, then they probably weren't allowed to show you that.
And here, I'll actually pull that up on the comic viewer. It pretty much happens there on the right hand page. I don't know what the actual page number of that is.
280.
280. So yeah, you see her attack in the first panel on the right hand page, the shocked faces of everyone else, and then her standing, and the face of Snowbird as a Wolverine, completely in black and shadow, also kind of it conveys that idea of, oh, she's not human anymore, like even more so that she is out of control, and this terrible animal is taken over. So anyway, it's maybe a small thing, but I thought that was just really well done. Okay, any other final thoughts, Stoger?
Uh, no, I think I think the character beats here, and the sort of the last 3 pages are kind of interesting to me in the sense that you have the Wolverine and Alpha Flight kind of finally making amends and separating, and you get more time with Nightcrawler and Wolverine. So anytime you can get those two characters together for me is a super positive. The next page is the guy that walked off the set of Austin Powers with Vindicator, talking about how Alpha Flight is getting hit with budget cuts. So it's interesting to see, kind of like what's going to happen now with them. Are they going to get their own series? Where are they going to pop up? And then you get left with, the tease of Days of Future Past with the Blob going to meet the new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which we haven't seen in the all new X Men era. So I think these last 3 pages kind of set you up for very interesting things for different reasons.
All right. Well, if you guys enjoyed our thoughts, follow us on YouTube. We're going to read, rate, and review a full Epic Collection trade paperback once a month. Any other socials you want to find us on, you'll find links to our link tree in the description. Jeez. Usually I struggle when it's late at night when we're doing these recordings, but it's early in the morning and now I'm struggling. But okay, that'll do. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you again next time.